Rocware has sent through their RC28 webcam and we're putting it up against the Logitech C922 in a dark room with just the glow coming from our monitor, and we get more light on the RC28 and the movement looks much more fluent too. The C922 looks quite choppy when there is motion. More of your background will be on display with the RC28, but we will get onto that shortly. With natural light coming in through the window and we're really overexposed on both, with our face looking washed out where the light is coming in. The contrast is much better on the RC28 too, with our shirt looking black, whereas everything on the C922 looks like it's got some kind of grey overlay on it. Manually configuring the exposure in OBS, and this removes a lot of the glow, but at the expense of a much darker image. But this does help with the contrast on the C922, with the colours having a little bit more life in them. Using ring lights in front of us, and again we are washed out on our face on both. There's more background clarity on the RC28, but that slight blur on the C922 makes us stand out more, but the movement looks fine on both, and as though we are getting the full 30 frames per second. If you have the ability to turn your lights down, then we found that this really helped the RC28 with it bringing more colour back into our face, whilst the C922 still looked overexposed, which was a little surprising. Manually configuring this in OBS was a huge help on the C922, but I'm preferring the colour on the RC28 as it brings just a touch more saturation and vibrance to the overall image. Switching on our backlights as well as having the ring lights in front, and exposure wise they are very similar with the white glow on my face. Movement seems pretty much the same, with the C922 readjusting its focus on occasion when we move closer to the lens. Turning down those ring lights again brings better results on the RC28 in terms of the exposure, and I would say the overall image is a little sharper too, with the C922 looking quite soft and not as crisp. Dropping the resolution to 1080p on the Rockware to match the C922 will result in you being able to get 60 frames per second, so the movement is going to look much smoother, but you do require lighting on yourself for this to be the case. We experience a lot of focus hunting on the C922 when moving around, which results in us being out of focus a lot. We don't seem to experience this on the RC28, but do remember that the 60 frames per second is only available in the 1080p mode and not in the 2K. Focusing on an ID badge with the RC28 wasn't too bad. It seemed quite responsive when moving the ID card in front of the lens, moving it away and moving it back into the shot. The details can be read clear enough. The C922 reacts much slower when trying to grab the focus, but when it does grab it, then it does a very good job, and all the text can be read, but if you don't have a steady hand, then it will keep trying to re-grab that focus. Testing it out on a small object, and the RC28 will allow you to get closer to the lens, and it is more responsive when trying to focus. The C922 does really struggle, and you need to be a good 12 inches away at least for it to attempt to recapture the focus. When it does get the focus, then it does perform well, but the RC28 will give you less of a headache. Removing a green screen and the Rockware looks pretty consistent, and I didn't experience any major issues. There is some pixelation on the arms of my chair, but this is more to do with my lighting setup and the green screen being very close to me. The C922 has a lot of pixelation going on. We can move the sliders in OBS to improve things, but this does bring a higher chance of picking up pixelation elsewhere on the image. But if you do have some good lighting on yourself, then you should be able to get away with it. This is a microphone test of the Rockware RC28. This is the kind of audio you can expect from the inbuilt microphone. This is a microphone test of the Logitech C922. This is the kind of audio you can expect from the inbuilt microphone. There is a physical zoom button on the RC28. You have to hold this down for a second or so and it will zoom in, and you get 3 different fields of view, but do expect a little loss in quality the more you are zoomed in. This worked fine in Zoom as well as Discord, but it did not work in OBS. But you do get an option in here to zoom using the software rather than the button on the back, which does work fine. Vertical mode is possible with the RC28. It requires you to turn it on its side and hold the back button for 8 seconds for it to flip over to this mode. This does take a few seconds for the webcam to realise it is switching over. You will want this mounted onto a tripod really for this mode, and the 60 frames per second still works fine too.